Yeah, you know I mean business when I rip out the white shirt. So, yesterday in the United States, an issue of Superman #1 from the 1930s went under the hammer with Heritage Auctions. And it became the most expensive and valuable comic to go under the hammer in documented history. But I will get to that. So I wanted to do a video going over some of the most expensive comics that have ever gone under the hammer. So I'm going to be referencing CGC Comics. They have compiled a list, so they have done a lot of the heavy lifting for me for this video. But going back to the idea of valuable comics going under the hammer, it is such a different game now. It's no longer comic book guys investing in these comics. It's weird billionaires, it's Saudi princes, it's people you would not expect. Even athletes love this stuff. And it's insane to see how far it's come. It's like the housing market here in Australia. If only we knew back then. If only I knew when I was a tiny little potato back in 1989, I should have been buying a house instead of just trying to thrive and grow and be a little baby. But no, I just had to live my childhood and have fun, and now we rent and, you know, shit's tough. But it's absolutely insane what these comics are going for these days. And the Superman #1 that went under the hammer that we're going to get to actually has one of those stories where you only imagine something like that happening. Apparently they're brothers. They're going to be very happy. Very happy. So is Heritage Auctions. Now, the list that we're going to be going over, I used to own one of those comics, and I'm going to be referencing a video from my Cosplay Chris channel from 10 years ago when I got said comic. It was a bit of a depressing trip down memory lane. I have aged severely, but it's all for the sake of science and geeking out over these very expensive comics. And it's gone to the days of The Simpsons episode 3 Men in a Comic, where Bart, Martin, and Milhouse invest in Radioactive Man #1. And I actually love that comic book cover. I've actually wanted to acquire that comic for so long. You can get graded copies and they sell for, I wouldn't say a high price, but you know, it's a few couple of dollary-doos.
$900
Okay, we're on the CGC Comics website, so we're going to start at the bottom of the list. Now, it's funny, I actually saw a copy of Daredevil #1 a couple of months ago at Collect Fest here in Sydney with my mate Josh, and I didn't realize it was a refurbished copy at first. I'm like, why is this kind of low? Like, really low. And the grade as well was pretty decent. But in this case, a 9.8 at Heritage Auctions in 2024 sold for $360,000 USD. So keep in mind, I will also put down below the conversion into AUD, just so you guys can get a good idea if you're watching within Australia. So yeah, Daredevil #1 from 1964. Next up, we've got Sensation Comics #1. Now, this is released in January of 1942. Sensation Comics #1 was the first to feature Wonder Woman. I actually didn't know that on the cover, and began the series that was largely devoted to her adventures. So in 2024, Heritage Auctions sold a 9.6 for $420,000 USD. From 1942, a 9.4. That is amazing. That thing just would have been in storage somewhere. Okay, next up, we got Avengers #1. This issue marks the very first assembly of Earth's mightiest heroes: Iron Man, Thor, Ant-Man, and Hulk. Together, they are the Avengers. Captain America joined the lineup later in Avengers number 4. The team has grown ever since. Yeah, they've grown quite a bit out of the comics. 2024 Heritage Auctions, went from 9.4 to 9.6. $432,000 USD. Okay, next up, we got Journey into Mystery, number 83, published in 1962. This book features the debut of Marvel's Thor by Jack Kirby. Again, I didn't realize that was Thor's first appearance. 2022, a 9.4 sold for $432,000. That's interesting. I wonder why the price dropped a year later. Okay, next up, we got Flash Comics #1, featuring the first appearance of the Golden Age Flash, Jay Garrick. This comic was published in 1941. And in 2010 at Heritage Auctions, another 9.6, $450,000 USD. So nice little bump up in figures right there. Okay, Detective Comics #140. This features the first appearance of the Riddler from 1948. 2023, another 9.6, sold for $360,000. Yeah, okay, so like the first appearance of Thor, interesting how the price dropped. I could be very much out of the loop and didn't realize that there was a possible crash in the comic market. I don't know. Phantom Lady number 17. While most of this list is typical heroes you'd expect to find, Phantom Lady stands out from the rest. Published in 1948 by Fox Feature Syndicate, this comic features a classic bondage cover that was cited in Dr. Frederick Weatherham's infamous book on the dangers of comic books, The Seduction of the Innocent. Huh, okay. Yeah, right, from 1948. So 2021, Heritage Auction sold a 9.6 copy for 456,000 USD. Wow, okay. So it's obviously gained notoriety for being quite infamous. And that's the reason of the high price tag. I've never heard of that one. More Fun Comics number 73. Haven't heard of this one. So this features the first appearances of Aquaman, Green Arrow, and Speedy. Published in 1941. Comic Connect 2025, a 9.4 sold for 460,127 USD. Okay, Brave and the Bold number 28 features the first appearance of the Justice League of America. Very cool. And in 2024, Heritage Auctions, another 9.6 sold for 810,000 USD. Nice. The Incredible Hulk number 1, created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. This issue features the first appearance of the Incredible Hulk. So the highest one in 2024 was a 9.2, 825,000 USD. I kind of thought that would have been higher. Okay, for a 9.0, damn. X-Men number 1, published in 1963, features the first appearance of the X-Men, the original team roster, Cyclops, Beast, Iceman, Angel, and Marvel Girl. So in 2022, it went under the hammer at 9.6 for 871,999. Just round that shit up, man. Showcase number 4. This book features the first appearance of Silver Age Flash Barry Allen. Published in 1956, 2024 Heritage Auctions, a 9.6 went for 900,000 USD. Okay. Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man, issue 1 from 1962. I used to own a copy of this. And I'm all for transparency, back in 2015, I think it was, I paid, I think it was 4,500 AUD for that. It was in very, very poor condition. It wasn't graded. I then sold it and I pretty much broke even. Anyway, the gentleman that I sold it to, we kept in contact and he actually submitted it for grading, and he was nice enough to message me when it came back graded. I think it came back as a 1.5. So I did make a video on it on the Cosplay Chris YouTube channel. So here's a few excerpts from that video. And god damn, who's that young whippersnapper? Anyway, here's a few clips from that video. Oh, hang on a minute. Oh, there we go. Okay. There you go, geeks. The Amazing Spider-Man, issue 1. Okay guys, here is the comic in all its glory. Now another thing, and I'll try and get this on camera. So it still has the original staples. The staples are in great condition. Now I'll go back to the first page. I love seeing all the old vintage ads as well with these comics. It's hilarious. Like I said, the color is still fantastic. It is faded, but it's still rich. A lot of versions of issue 1 that I've seen are just absolutely faded to the point where you would need restoration. So in 2024, a 9.8 of The Amazing Spider-Man issue 1 sold for 1.38 million USD. Oh my god. All-Star Comics. While the Justice Society of America adorns the cover, inside the comic features the first appearance of Wonder Woman. Okay, the 1941 issue also includes the first new look at Dr. Fate and the first cameo of Hawkgirl. The highest in 2022 Heritage Auctions, a 9.4 sold for 1.62 million USD. Okay, Detective Comics number 27. While the first issue of Detective Comics was published by National in 1937, it was 1939's issue 27 that made history with the first appearances of Batman by Bob Kane and Bill Finger. Well, mostly Bill Finger. Come on. Okay, notable sales. 8.5 restored. Now let's go up to the highest one. So in 2024, Comic Connect, a 6.5 sold for 1.82 million USD. Damn. Tales of Suspense number 39. This 1963 comic features the first appearance of Iron Man by Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Larry Lieber, and Don Heck. In 2023, at Comic Link, a 9.8 sold for $2 million USD. Okay, we're closing in on our top ones. Fantastic Four #1 debuted in 1961. 2024 Heritage Auctions, a 9.6 sold for, is that $2 million, $4,000? Fuck me, I don't know. I can't math. Batman #1. This issue from 1940 is Batman's first solo title and features the first appearances of Joker and Catwoman. And in 2021, Heritage Auctions sold a 9.4 for $2.22 million USD. Wow. And pictured there as a grade 8. Marvel Comics #1, published by Timely Comics in 1939. Marvel Comics was an anthology series that introduced characters like the Human Torch, who was different from the Fantastic Four's Johnny Storm. Okay. In 2022, a 9.4 sold for $2.4 million USD. Captain America Comics #1, published by Timely Comics by Jack Kirby and Joe Simon. This comic features a classic cover depicting Captain America punching Hitler. Hell yeah. 2022 Heritage Auction sold a 9.4 for $3.12 million USD. Amazing Fantasy #15. In the final issue of Amazing Fantasy, Stan Lee had convinced the publisher to let him try a new teenage hero he created with Steve Ditko. The issue became the highest selling book for Marvel, and Spider-Man was rushed into his very own series. Amazing. So in 2021, a 9.6, which is pictured there, sold for $3.6 million USD. Okay, we're going into the heavy hitters now. Action Comics #1 in 1938. First appearance of Superman by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. So in 2024, Heritage Auctions sold an 8.5 grade comic of Action Comics #1 for $6 million USD. And with that, we're going to be talking about the piece de resistance that went under the hammer yesterday in the United States with Heritage Auctions. A 9.0 grade of Superman #1, published in 1939. So obviously you can see what it sold for there, but I'm just going to play the clip.
It's graded Superman 1 to come out of anywhere. I cannot explain to you how amazing this book is.
$7,050,000.
$7,050,000. I need $7.1 million. 7.1. Bid on the phone of $7.2 million. 7.3 million. Now I need 7.4. $7.4 million on the phones. Do I hear 7.5? 7.5. Do I hear 7.6? 7.6 on the phones. Fair warning at $7.6 million. $7.6 million.
So with the buyer's fees and all that jazz, taxes and scratch your butt tax and breathe air tax, it sold at Heritage Auctions a 9.0 for $9.12 million USD. And it has a damn beautiful story with it. So I'm referencing an article from The Guardian that came out yesterday. A copy of Superman #1 that was discovered in an attic in California last year has become the world's most expensive comic book after selling for $9.12 million USD, which is 6.96 million pound, or in Australian dollars, 14.14 million AUD. Superman #1 was published in 1939 and was the Man of Steel's first solo title. It marked the first time a character that debuted in a comic had their own title devoted entirely to them. The copy was sold on Thursday, was found in 2024 under a stack of old newspapers in a cardboard box by 3 unnamed brothers in Northern California, where they were going through their late mother's attic. That is just insane. Their mother had bought the comic when she was 9 years old and living in San Francisco. The brothers, who have asked not to be named for obvious reasons, said over the years she told her sons that she had quote-unquote rare comics somewhere, but they never found them. Despite where the 86-year-old comic was kept, it was in pristine condition and became the highest ever graded copy of Superman #1 with a score of 9.0 on the 10-point scale used in the industry to grade the condition of comic books. It is one of only 7 known copies with a grade of 6.0 or higher. So there you go, guys. That is one of the most valuable and highly graded comics to go under the hammer. But I also just wanted to delve into the world of other comics that had gone for very high prices, and some that I didn't even know of. Didn't even know of certain superheroes' origins in those particular comics. It's just insane what is in someone's attic, basement, collection. You just don't know. You don't know what your parents have. You don't know what your grandparents have. It is absolutely insane. Love stories like that. It reminds me of years ago when Sean Clark obtained a 1975 Captain Kirk Don Post mask. And it was in the collection of someone on the other side of the United States who just had it sitting in their closet, and they bought it when they were a kid at a magic shop in Disneyland. Like, stories like that are amazing, but that is just out of this world. Like 14 million Australian dollars. It's crazy. Again, it's hindsight at its finest. You just never know what you have in your collection. So with that being said, drop a comment below and let me know if you've ever had any instances like that where there's been something in maybe your collection, parents' collection, grandparents' collection that they didn't know what they had, but you're like, oh my God, this is a house deposit right here. Love you guts, and I'll catch you in the next one.